Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and this is probably going to be my last time reporting on all of the Commanders draft rumors that we know so far. This is part 2. I already did a part 1 a few days ago. If you want to check out those rumors, you can go check out that video as well. But today, we're moving on and reporting on more rumors. As you can see in the title, are we potentially taking Deonte Banks in the first round? Does that have real momentum? Who are our favorite tackles? There's a report that has revealed our top 2 tackles in this draft. Also, is the Senior Bowl mandatory? Do you have to be a Senior Bowl player for the Commanders to pick you? And then we have so many other rumors and reports about players that we're interested in, what rounds we may want them, and all kinds of stuff, man. It's really crazy. Buckle up for this one. So many rumors and reports, man. This is going to be a really fun video. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up for all of my draft coverage. Like I already said, I will be live streaming rounds 1 through 5. So round 1 on Thursday, I'll start at 6:30, even though the draft starts at 8, and we'll be doing mock drafts together. Open up the phone lines for y'all to call in and everything. And then on Friday, I'll live stream rounds 2 and 3, and then on Saturday, I'm probably going to live stream rounds 4 and 5, maybe even more, depending on how interesting things are. Also, I'll be on Louis T's live stream talking straight draft tonight at 9 p.m., so make sure you pull up for that as well. And without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so first of all, Ben Standig, a really close reporter to the Commanders. I mean, you can argue it's probably like him, John Comm, and maybe another handful of guys that when they say something, you may want to believe it. As far as the pick at 16, he said, quote, "I don't think Witherspoon will be there, to be honest," which basically insinuates that the Commanders would definitely take him if he were available. They just don't believe that he will, and I highly doubt it as well. But Deonte Banks and Brian Branch, though, and he left it open-ended like that. So apparently the Commanders do like Deonte Banks and Brian Branch potentially at 16th overall. Now, if they're both available there at 16, and maybe one of the tackles that they really like, which we're going to talk about soon, probably in a few minutes, if all of those guys are available, we're not exactly sure who they would take between the 3, even though I feel like taking tackle makes the most sense because there are so many great corners in this draft. You can get a really good starting level corner easily in the 3rd round this draft. For sure in the 2nd round, take your tackle in the 1st round if the guy that you like is there, just simply because after the 1st round, tackles get a little scarce. It's going to be a drop-off, whereas corner, there's not going to be a major drop-off until after the 3rd or 4th round, honestly. The guy you take in the 3rd round probably is going to end up being just as good as the guy you would take in the 1st round, outside of the obvious couple of guys like Devon Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez. After that, I mean, Julius Brents, you can match him up with all of these guys. And I mean, of course, with cornerback scheme matters the most fit. You saw Woolen for the Seahawks last year and how he worked out better than Derek Stingley, who still has all of the talent in the world, but the Texans just didn't put him in a position to win. The Seahawks did put Woolen in a position to win, and look at how well he played. It's really about fit, matchup schemes, and all of that type of stuff. And so honestly, Julius Brents in the 2nd or 3rd round could make a lot more sense than even a Deonte Banks, who I really like, at 16th overall. It would make more sense to take the tackle there, in my opinion. But there's a lot of ways that we can mix this up, and honestly, if we were to end up taking Deonte Banks or Brian Branch 16th overall, I would not be mad. I would actually be pretty happy, but I just feel like taking one of those top tackles would be the better idea, because again, there's a drop-off after the 1st round, man. It gets ugly. If you're not going to take a tackle in the 1st, you're probably not going to take a potential starting level one at all in this draft at any point after that. But Deonte Banks is really interesting because the fit is crazy, and the Commanders, I believe, led the league in quarters coverage last year, and Maryland ran a lot of that. So Deonte Banks is like literally, probably, arguably the best fit at corner in this entire draft class between him, Devon Witherspoon, and maybe you can argue Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez is more so tools, whereas Devon Witherspoon and Deonte Banks, I mean, literally would come in day 1, and it would would be so smooth for them because it'd be almost the exact same coverages and defensive schemes that they were running in college. I mean, you can literally just plug them right in and there won't be many growing pains other than the fact that they're going from college to the NFL. But as far as mentally and trying to learn the defense and understand it, Deonte Banks and Devon Witherspoon would be immediately ready. Maybe there would be some different verbiage a little bit, but that's it. Next up, Ben Standig addressed his most likely candidates to be picked at 16th overall. Not necessarily who he'd prefer, but who's the most likely guys. He said, quote, "I think Darnell Wright is my odds-on favorite right now if he's on the board." That's a big if though, because Darnell Wright could possibly end up being the first tackle taken by a team way before we pick at 16. And then he also said others were safety Brian Branch, defensive end Lucas Van Ness, offensive tackle Broderick Jones, and cornerback Emmanuel Forbes. But as of right now, out of that group, he sees Darnell Washington as the most likely candidate. If you had to put money down, that would be the guy that we would take according to him. Then Ryan Fowler came out and reported that from what I've heard out of the building, they love Darnell Wright. He's the second tackle on their board from what I've been told, behind Paris Johnson from Ohio State. And that is a really interesting report right there. And the reason that is so believable is because if you're cross-referencing, again, Ben Standig, the previous report that we just read, he said that they are really high on Darnell Wright, and I would bet that that would be the guy that they would take if he's available at 16, if he had to put money down on anybody. But then also the Paris Johnson side of it, I remember Mitch Tisler at one point, maybe like a few days ago, a couple of weeks ago, whatever, I remember him saying on Twitter that the Commanders also love Paris Johnson as well. So multiple reports are coming out basically saying the same things. We love Darnell Wright, we love Paris Johnson. Ryan Fowler is basically just putting it in order of Paris Johnson #1 as their favorite tackle, Darnell Wright is their second, but then they also like Broderick Jones a little bit. And then speaking of Mitch Tisler, he on Twitter said that they wouldn't pass on Broderick Jones if he was there. Say Darnell Wright and Paris Johnson are gone before 16th overall, which is pretty likely. They would not pass on Broderick Jones. They would take him in a heartbeat. And so it sounds like that they probably are leaning towards tackle, which makes me very happy because, again, even though it's not technically our biggest need, I want to make sure people understand that linebacker has a bigger need than offensive tackle, in my opinion, as well. Left guard, technically, as far as a starter, has a bigger need than tackle in this draft. Cornerback is a bigger need than tackle. But again, cornerback, this group is so deep, you can get the guy that you really want that can start and even play at a Pro Bowl level in the second or third round, I feel like easily. Linebacker, not really many guys that's worthy of going in the first round. You should take that guy in the second or third round, honestly. And then interior offensive lineman, positional value. And even just the guys available in this draft, there are some good guys, but it's not a very deep position. So even though linebacker, left guard, and cornerback are technically bigger needs than tackle, if we're looking at positional value and talent, where talent meets positional value meets somewhat of a need at the very least, maybe not our biggest need, but a need nonetheless, and you can always move Andrew Wiley if you need to left guard. Tackle makes the most sense taken in the first round, and I'm really happy that it sounds like the Commanders are on the same wavelength as me. But that's just my logic. Also, Tanner Pfeiffer, NFL, reported that Washington has expressed interest in Ball State cornerback Amechi Uzodinma, the second, and ECU linebacker Miles Berry. So look at those guys as some late round options, maybe even undrafted free agents. And then R.E. Pooley reported that the Commanders are interested in Georgetown wide receiver Joshua Thomas. So clearly a local guy. Georgetown isn't necessarily known for their football, but this could be one of those sleepers that we can find later in the draft or again as an undrafted free agent. Keep your eye out for those three names I just gave you, because everybody's interested in the top guys in the draft. But when you start to hear some of the fifth round or later undrafted free agent guys that we may be connected to and interested in, those are the guys you really need to watch out for, because maybe other teams aren't, and we probably have a way better chance of getting those guys. So even when it comes to visits, I'm tracking those later round potential prospect visits and undrafted free agent visits and taking more stock with those than like the first round guys, because of course we're interested in all of the top best players that are supposed to go in the first round. Everybody is. Are we going to get all of them? No. We're only going to get one, maybe two in some crazy miracle. But that's just me. That's just my thinking of the situation. Also, John Keim, remember, he said a few days ago on the possibility of drafting a corner at 16, he said, quote, "It won't be Joey Porter Jr." And then somebody tweeted at him and said that I mean, we're not really sure about that. And then John Comm simply tweeted back, nah, I'm pretty sure about that, with a shrug emoji. And I already reported that and talked about that in another video. But the reason I'm bringing it up now is because, first of all of these mock drafts that everybody's doing, you can barely avoid Joey Porter going to the Commanders. He's easily and by far the name that comes up most if you look at the mock draft landscape from all of the expert analysts, NFL analysts, draft analysts, all of that type of stuff. Joey Porter's name comes up more than anybody else's. And so it's like, do they know something inside that we don't know yet? So are they directly conflicting with John Comm? That's really interesting. And also directly conflicting with John Comm's report about Joey Porter will not be the guy, and I'm sure of it. The Commanders are reportedly zeroing in on cornerback Joey Porter in the NFL draft. That came out today, literally Tuesday, April 25th. It's been reported that the Commanders are not playing about Joey Porter, and they will take him 16th overall if he's there. So we're definitely in full-blown lion season right now, because somebody's wrong. Between Joey Porter is definitely not getting taken by the Commanders, and Joey Porter is the guy that we're zeroing in on as our priority. Those are two complete opposites. It'd be different if somebody said maybe they like him, maybe they don't, and things like that. But these are two completely opposite sides of the spectrum. We don't like him at all. We won't even take him if he's there. And then the other one saying that he's the guy we want the most. This is chaos. Take whatever you want to take. I'm just going to report all of it. It's lion season. Remember that, and just do what you will with the information. I just want to let y'all know and make sure y'all hear everything that I'm hearing, because this is chaotic right now. Also, Kevin Sheehan said, quote, Washington likes Hayden Hooker a lot. So he must know something. I mean, I've seen the reports. I saw the fact that we took him to dinner. And like I said before, reporting on the fact that we took Hayden Hooker to dinner. Last time the Commanders took somebody to dinner, we ended up hiring him as our offensive coordinator and assistant head coach. That's pretty significant. We bring in guys for visits all of the time. You're allowed 30 per season, and we usually use all of them. Especially this year, we used all 30 of them. But to take a guy to dinner is like really special and unique. And I've already explained in several videos and live streams the thinking behind the fact that Eric Bieniemy did not draft Sam Howell. He may love what he saw in Sam Howell versus the Cowboys that last game of the season, but at the end of the day, Eric Bieniemy is not attached to this guy. His reputation is not on that guy. Don't be surprised if Eric Bieniemy ends up really liking Hayden Hooker and trying to take him second or third round. But listening to all of the draft guys lately, Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper and Todd McShay and all of those guys, a lot of them are all saying that it's very likely that Hayden Hooker ends up going in the first round, which will be out of the Commanders' range anyway. But either way, again, Kevin Sheehan said that Washington likes Hayden Hooker a lot. I think if Hayden Hooker's on the board at 47 in the second round, I think Washington will seriously contemplate selecting Hayden Hooker, unquote. But again, like I already said, I highly doubt he's even going to be there in the second round. Just to warn y'all, if you're one of those people that really wants Hayden Hooker. All right, next up, when it comes to the percentage of 2022 draftees from the Senior Bowl roster that a team took, we're second in the NFL, only behind the Cardinals by like 1%, or maybe it's neck and neck and dead even. But us two, by far, out of the entire NFL, made sure that we brought in Senior Bowl players in that previous 2022 NFL draft. And we're going to dive into who those guys are. But before we do, I mean, like I posed the question in the title and the intro, is it almost mandatory for you to play at the Senior Bowl and be a Senior Bowl standout for the Commanders to consider you? Because this goes back even further than 2022. Remember in 2019, Terry McLaurin was seen as just a special teams guy, not a guy that could contribute any seriously on offense as a receiver, but he stood out at the Senior Bowl. We took him in the third round. Now look at him. Then in 2021, we took Benjamin St. Juice, who participated at the Senior Bowl and stood out, and he stepped up big time and is one of our starting corners when healthy. And then of course in that same 2021 draft, we took tight end John Bates from the Senior Bowl, long snapper Cameron Cheeseman, and defensive end Shaka Toney, all at that 2021 Senior Bowl. Now Shaka Toney suspended, you know, I always got to mention that, but he was a Senior Bowl player. That's why we took a chance on him. And then it got even crazier in 2022. Like I said, us and the Cardinals drafted the most Senior Bowl players, at least percentage wise, for all of the guys that we added onto our team from 2022 in the NFL by far, not even close. And of course, in the second round, we took Fedarian Mathis, the defensive tackle from Alabama. In the third round, we took Alabama running back Brian Robinson, both guys from the same team and Senior Bowl. Then we took North Carolina quarterback Sam Howell in the fifth round. We took Nevada tight end Cole Turner in the fifth round, Tulsa guard Chris Paul in the seventh round. All Senior Bowl players. 5 of our draft picks from last year were all Senior Bowl players, and that is not common. at all. And you got to remember, Montez Sweat was a Senior Bowl player. We have Senior Bowl players all up and down this roster. The Commanders, especially since Ron Rivera has been here, clearly values that a lot. And then the last thing that I want to report, JP Finley, again, really close to the organization, said, quote, best case for Washington would be to trade back. I don't think I'm sharing state secrets here. I think it's pretty clear that's what they want to do, unquote. So again, he knows something. It's Lion season, but that's been heard from everywhere. John Com, everybody is saying that the Commanders clearly do want to trade back. Of course, to trade back is not like a computer simulation. Somebody will have to be willing to give up the trade value and trade up to the pick that we're trading out of, which is 16th overall. It's not a one-way street. Both teams have to agree on it, and there's probably going to be teams competing to trade up. Again, if one of our top guys is not there at 16, I think it's personally very likely that we trade back. I think it would be smart to trade back unless one of those elite talents is there. There's only like a handful of players that are available at 16 that I wouldn't trade back out of. Like, I'm that high on Darnell Wright. I'm not even particularly that high on Paris Johnson, even though we would be lucky to have a left tackle like a Paris Johnson. He would be a franchise left tackle, and so I may include him in that list. But my favorites are Darnell Wright and Broderick Jones at tackle, and even maybe Anton Harrison, but I feel like the league isn't as high on him, so I feel like you can play it a little smart, take a risk, and trade back and still end up getting him. Darnell Washington, I feel like he's that good, but again, just like Anton Harrison, I feel like you can trade back and still get him because the rest of the league isn't that high on Darnell Washington. But as far as guys at 16, like Christian Gonzalez, Devon Witherspoon, they somehow make it that far, I'm not trading back. It would be really hard for me too. I really want to trade back in this draft. I really do, because I feel like the more second, third, and fourth round picks we can get, and maybe even fifth round picks, the better, because this is a very deep draft that isn't extremely top heavy in a lot of positions. Ultimately, the guy that you can get in the third or fourth round may end up being just as good as the guy you can get in the first and the second, and that's technically true every draft, but it seems especially true this draft because there isn't much separation amongst a lot of these position groups, and there is at a certain point a drop off, but especially like cornerback, there isn't a big difference after like the first 3 or 4 from like 5 through like 10 or 12. It really isn't that much of a difference. It's really just based on fit and scheme. And again, I'm gonna keep saying it, I didn't want to trade back last draft, and we still did. In this draft, I want to trade back, so I feel like we're even more likely to do it this draft than last draft, and we did it last draft, and it worked out very well because trading back, not only were we still able to get Jahan Dotson in the first round, but Brian Robinson and Sam Howell were for sure only picked by us because we traded back. We would not have had the picks to be able to get those guys if we didn't trade back with the Saints. And those guys look like they're gonna matter. I mean, Brian Robinson is our starting running back. Sam Howell is our starting quarterback, assumed to be entering this 2023 regular season, and hopefully is our franchise quarterback that can turn us into true playoff and Super Bowl contenders. That trade back was phenomenal at the end of the day. I mean, I still wish we had Jamison Williams or Kyle Hamilton, but that trade back, if anything, may have actually been better overall because of all of the greatness we got from it. I mean, even if we had Jamison Williams or Kyle Hamilton right now, who would be our starting quarterback? And again, I wanted to trade back less in that draft than this one. So like JP Finley said, he says, I don't think I'm sharing state secrets by saying that they want to trade back. It's clearly obvious that they want to. And Martin Mayhew, even in his draft press conference alongside Ron Rivera, basically spilled the beans himself and said, yes, we want to trade back, basically. He said from his experience throughout his entire career of being a GM, trading back has always worked out very well for them. And if anything, between trading back and trading up, trading back has always produced better results at the end of the day. So it's obvious. I'm pretty sure every NFL team knows we want to trade back. I'm pretty sure we've already made calls to NFL teams about, hey man, you thinking about coming up to 16? We're willing to do this and that. And I wouldn't be surprised that if there's already a trade in place, but we just haven't heard it yet announced or something like that. We clearly want to trade back, so definitely believe that that is a strong possibility and is more than likely to happen. If I had to put money on a specific player or us trading back or us trading up, I would put the majority of my chips into trading back, honestly. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And as always, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Man, I really appreciate y'all. Definitely get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about all of these rumors and reports, because again, nothing is exactly factual. I can't 100% prove that any of these things that I talked about in this video are going to happen or a true or anything like that, but things are getting very interesting. So stay tuned for all of the draft content. I'm coming out with a very realistic mock draft probably either tonight or tomorrow, so stay on the lookout for that, where I'm gonna try to get as many right as possible. So it's not gonna be who I want us to draft, it's gonna be more so tailored to who I think we will draft based on that list of players that we're interested in. That's probably at like 120 now, and I'm also gonna do a video showcasing that and telling y'all about it, breaking it down, all of the prospects that we're interested in so far heading into the draft, all of that type of stuff. So stay tuned for all of the content, man. I'm so excited. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.